Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Miscellaneous Gab and you know what time it is. Or actually, none of us really knows what time it is because we are in the world of Severance. Welcome back to another Severance Rewind deep dive where I'm going episode by episode of season 1 while we wait for season 3 so that we can look at the episode through a new lens. So if you're new around here, I go through a summary of the episode first that contains no spoilers for anything beyond that episode. And then for the second half of the video, I get into my spoiler corner, if you will, where we spoil everything and we talk about what could possibly happen in season 3 or even give us more context on season 2. So without further ado, let's get into it. Episode 5 is called The Grim Barbarity of Optics and Design. A lot of revelations, a lot of clues, a lot of things that we can read. We begin this episode with this kind of in and out of Helly's Audi waking up to being hung, because the doors keep closing and it keeps going down. It keeps going in and out between Helly and her Audi, which would be so terrifying. This marks a very grim turning point, not only for Helly and her character development, but also for Mark and even the other MDR employees. Even if they didn't see, they live in a world where there is no death. There's no violence. There's nothing like this. So kind of a moment of growth. Mark is understandably horrified because they don't really deal with death down there. Meanwhile, during this episode, Mark continues reading the UUR, which was either given or planted or stolen, or there's a whole lot of, but because it's addressed to him, he kind of feels like he was meant to read it. The UUR is kind of the antithesis of Kier's handbook. Kier's handbook is how you can be a better worker. It's about industry, whereas the UUR is all about rebellion and identity and the power of the self. And while you and I might hear those words and think they sound like really silly, like the most generic of generic self-help books, to an innie who has been programmed to base their whole identity around their work and their output, it probably is pretty revolutionary. Grainer confirms with Miss Cobel that PD was reintegrated. There's, quote, a full synaptic coupling once they analyzed the chip to indicate that he truly had been unsevered. The board in previous episodes does not agree that this is even possible. Is this Cobel just being proven right, or is it something else? We'll talk about this in the analysis section. Meanwhile, Devin gives birth and Rickon is acting weird again. I would really hate to have someone like Rickon by my side while I was giving birth, and it seems also that Devin feels the same. We also get to see how the team reacts to Helly's unaliving attempt, and it's very interesting. We learn more about the characters. Irving suggests that they post inspirational quotes from Kier's handbook around to kind of rally her spirits, which is just so funny because it absolutely wouldn't rally probably anyone's spirits but Irving's, but that tells you a lot about how Irv sees the world. Dylan suggests perks. It just shows what different people need and how they rally their identity in this world where it is like a box or a jail. Irving needs meaning, a deeper meaning, where Dylan needs to win. Meanwhile, Irving falls asleep once more and we see that weird paint bubbling over. What does it mean? When are we gonna find out? When Irv goes to go make a copy of the map, he sees something very disturbing coming out of the printer. It's images of the massacre, the O&D coup that Dylan had been warning about. It seems pretty violent. It seems pretty bloody. Milchick goes over and says, you shouldn't have seen that. That was just a joke. I was playing on Miss Cobel. Just put it out of your mind. However, when Milchick goes and speaks with Miss Cobel, he says that he ran a 266 on Irving B, which means that he sent that there as a tool. Not even that. It wasn't even an improvisation, but 266 actually means something. It's some sort of protocol to dissuade employees from seeking each other out or having romantic relationships. How many times has this happened before? We know that Lumon is really obsessed with keeping people separated. Remember, he also saw that there's way more people in O&D than Burt initially led him to believe. Irv and Dylan end up confronting Burt, who's in a conference room for some reason. And Burt basically said he lied out of fear. There's this rumor that MDR is the aggressor, that they even have pouches. What does this mean? It just means that Lumon has a very vested interest in controlling the narrative and keeping these departments away from each other. Even Grainer kind of chastises Miss Cobel later, saying like, for letting them discover each other. How many other departments are in Lumon? We also see another glimpse of maybe a hidden team or department when Helly and Mark stumble upon the goat man, this man who's sitting there feeding baby goats. He says, don't take them. They're not ready. He doesn't seem to know who they are. They don't seem to know who he is. And of course, we can assume that he is another severed employee. Meanwhile, when Dylan and go to O&D, Dylan finds the opposite painting where MDR are the aggressors and O&D are the victim. In this episode, although Helly has been kind of wrecked by what's happened, she's still back ready to fight. She offers Mark to help finish PD's drawing and they can go explore. That is my summary. Let's move on to the analysis. So if you haven't seen the rest of season 1 or season 2, click away now, but hit that like button and subscribe. All right, so I'm not gonna go through everything I just said. I wanna draw your attention to the scene where Grainer and Cobel are talking about the full synaptic coupling, that PD was indeed reintegrated, and Grainer says something really interesting. I've talked about it before, which is that you should celebrate.
Full synaptic coupling. You were right, Harmony. We should celebrate.
Why? Why does he mean that? Does he know that Cobel invented Severance? Probably not. I feel like nobody but James and Harmony Cobel really know. It seemed like the official policy that reintegration wasn't possible, and I imagine that if they do find out it is possible, that's kind of bad news for them because it means their technology is fallible. Cobel probably has a personal reason that maybe Grainer knows for wanting somebody to become unsevered. If not, why would he, this man who's so serious and so seemingly by the book, suggests that she celebrate? Let me know what you think in the comments. Unfortunately, we'll never get the opportunity to ask Grainer because he died. Also, I just wanted to point out that Mark gets into the Demona birthing retreat without a security guard or a special code or anything like that. Maybe it's just the time of day. Cobel sends Miss Casey to monitor Helly, and she says to Milchick that she's trying something new and kind of indicates don't tell anybody, but we know the Watchers are watching.
I'm trying something new with Miss Casey. Keep it between us.
From season 2, we know there's like these people watching these exact scenes we see in season 2 of Miss Casey watching Helly. So I'm confused here because is it that Harmony doesn't want anybody to know, or she just doesn't want the board to know, but she assumes the people who are watching will know? Or was this just, am I reading too into it? Or did Harmony not know that there's cameras and Watchers? But I feel like of course she does, right? Of course she does, because she knows about Cold Harbor and all that stuff. So if she doesn't want Milchick to know, what is she trying to do? I really want to learn more about her secret agenda. One of the most interesting scenes in this episode is when Burt is in that conference room kind of talking to himself, pacing, and then Irving and Dylan find him after being tipped off from Miss Casey. Dylan like locks him in there to kind of neutralize the threat. Irv starts like bleeding out for a manager.
I need a manager. Irving, wait, don't go.
Which is just so funny and cute. He's always just deferring to authority, which says a lot about his character arc. Love that guy. But the thing is like nobody comes. Everything is being monitored, but if you're screaming for a manager, nobody comes. So just this gives me like more and more thought that everything with Burt was just a giant setup. There's more to this story, which I really, really hope we learn. What do you guys think? Do you think that Burt is actually a severed employee, that he went in there to just help keep Irving awake? Or that there's some sort of plot on the inside to bring the departments closer together? Burt tells his joke, and I don't know, he's a bad liar. He was waiting around to tell a joke. I mean, he is lying. He plays it off and says he's nervous. He worries that they have pouches, but what's the real reason here? Also, it is funny to me that Mark takes Helly to the room, or they pass the room that they would later share vessels in. All of these rooms that have yet to be moved into, it just makes me wonder so much about the greater plans for Severance. Helly also asks if the goats are the numbers, which I just thought that was interesting. And then finally, like I mentioned earlier, Grainer confronts Cobel about letting them find other departments, and just makes me wonder, has Cobel been trying to sabotage this whole time? What is going on? Anyway, this was a very enjoyable episode. Not a ton happened in terms of woe. It was a little slower paced, but I love the slower paced Severance episodes. That's all I got for you. I'll be coming out with episode 6 hopefully and 7, 8, and 9 pretty soon here. I'm taking my time with this rewatch because I'm working on the character episodes in the back. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my other Severance content. Leave a comment below with what else you want to see me talk about or cover. And thank you so much to all of my Waffle Party VIP members who stick by my side. Thank you, as well as my other paid Patreon members. I will see you next time. Remember, don't get severed. Bye.